Well, I'm wrapping up a day of tutoring and getting my steps in. I'm actually walking inside today because it's really windy outside, and all you would hear would be the wind blowing. But you might hear the farm cat because she's inside the shed with me. But my talk today is really going to be about how, as tutors, we've got to build that network. And taking actionable steps to build a network is really going to help you in the long run. It's so easy to think, I'm just a tutor, I'm by myself, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. My audience is small. I'm just going to hang my sign on Facebook and call it good. Well, I have news for you. That's not going to be the answer to everything. It's definitely going to help to have a social media presence, but it's not the answer to everything that you're going to need to do to network and find students. And I can say this with certainty because I have gone through 2 years of this. And it's been really interesting to, go through the everyday steps of keeping my business running, but then to take a step back and look at it from just a real general perspective and just going, that's interesting. Because I took the advice that I was listening to from all of the online gurus, and they're like, don't worry, you don't need to have business cards. No, you don't need to, advertise in your local newspapers. You don't need to do any of that because you have social media, and social media is proof. And I fell for that hook, line, and sinker. And I'm really not happy with myself for not listening to that little voice in the back of my head saying, maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should try this. So now I'm doing all those, maybe I should tries. And part of that is networking with other tutors, which I have been doing, but I'm doing it maybe a little bit more strategically now. And I want to talk to you about two things that I'm doing, okay? Number one is business cards. And number two is using a service called Alignable. Okay, now I spent $22 on 100 business cards. And they didn't print off quite perfectly, but they're good enough. I'm going to use them. Part of my image is off the paper. I looked at the proof. It looked okay on the paper, and it said everything was inside, but then when they came, it was just a little bit off. But it's okay because I did a 2-sided card, and the other side has all my information on it. So I'm going to call that a happy learning moment, and it's okay. I mean, if I waited for everything to be perfect all of the time, I would never move forward in my business. And I think most people know that, things don't always have to be perfect to make them work. So I'm going to use them. And they actually look really good. They're high quality. I highly recommend Canva for print materials. They come quickly. Something else that's not related to the business card, but it will be a bonus, okay, because I didn't mention it before, is I actually just ordered a yard sign. And through Canva, and it's my saying, building readers and writers one word at a time. It has my flow code on it, or my QR code, my name. It's got my website. It's got the picture of me because I'm my logo. And I'm going to call my mom and say, hey, Mom, I'm going to drop this off in your lawn for this week. I'll come pick it up this next weekend. And I already know that she's going to say that's completely fine. And I'm going to put it in her lawn. She's in a larger city, and I just need eyes on it. So I'm going to do that. And then I am also going to put it, I'm going to see if I can put it in my son's lawn. He's not in the best position. I have a friend in town on the highway. I might ask her if I can put it there. I'm just going to take that sign, and I'm going to put it in a few different people's lawns, and hopefully it survives. But it's made of corrugated plastic, so it's going to be weatherproof or weatherproofed enough. And I'm just going to put it in a few strategic locations and say, hey, if I can leave this in your lawn for a week, I'll bring you some steaks as a thank you, because I need eyes on it. I want local people. But let's go back to the Alignable, and why I'm so glad that I joined that. And honestly, I think I got an email on it from it might have been my twin sister, or it was maybe a friend who said, did you know so-and-so is on Alignable? And I'm like, wait, what's Alignable? And so I clicked the button. Now, there's some people out there that say it's spam and whatever. I haven't found that to be the case. I mean, yes, I'm getting a lot of emails. I can opt out at any time. I could go through and search and put a filter on and send them to spam. But I look at over half of them. And it's just like, it reminds me of like a digital white pages, because it's different people who are creating profiles, and they're small business people. And it's for anywhere from photography to pottery to a mini mart to a restaurant to whatever. They're all on there. But then you can search out educators. And I didn't see that at first, so I joined it, and then I just started to connect with other businesses. And so I connected with, some of the ones that I just mentioned actually, and just said, I would like to, be a part of your profile or whatever. And then I realized that you could go in and you could search for tutors. So then I started to make connections with tutors. Now this leads me to my couple of networking experiences. The first thing that I noticed was that they provide you with education. So far, it's all been free. Now, you can do the paid version. I am not going to do the paid version. Maybe I'm using something not at capacity or making a large mistake by not doing that, but I'm choosing not to use it. Okay. So just know that I'm using the free version. And so on the free version, you make yourself a profile and then you start to make these connections. So I'm sending out little leads like, I'd like to connect, kind of like what you do on LinkedIn, if any of you are using LinkedIn. Well, the amazing part about this is then you get these invitations to these different things. So you can join a group, and it might be on marketing. And that's really something that I actually really enjoy, the marketing part. I don't always get the results I'm hoping for, but I know I'm planting seeds, and I think that's just as good. So I'm always very optimistic about any kind of marketing that I'm doing. So I've gone to a couple of these like webinars, and then I even went to one that I thought was a webinar, and it was a networking event. And I got to meet with people from around the United States doing completely different things than what I was doing. And we were talking about like, what is your sales pitch? And they walked us through some very specific steps, which I've learned from other people, but I looked at it more from like a business approach instead of an education business approach. And it was slightly different, and I found it really, really useful. So I am going to say, if you haven't checked out Alignable, maybe just look at it and see if you even want to make a profile, or if you make one, you can go in and delete it, and that's completely fine. But here's the bonus, is that when I was reaching out to tutors, and I don't remember if I started the conversation or if the tutor that I'm going to mention, her name's Tina McMillan, and she's going to be on the Tutoring with Sheryl podcast in October. We just started a conversation, and she asked if I had like a group of people that I met with, like a mastermind or whatever. And I said, well, I meet regularly with two tutors, so I kind of already have that group built in. But I said, I would love to visit with you. I said, would you like to meet? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, does it work at this time? And I found out that she's in Calgary after I met her, and I'm in Nebraska in the States. And so we were off by an hour, but I set the meeting, and we met, and we had so much in common. Same age, our path into tutoring is slightly different, but we both had classroom experiences. We both have created courses. She's in the process of creating this course. And I started to talk to her, and I was like, well, tell me more about your course. And she's like, well, I don't really know where I'm going to put it yet. I've been looking at like Kajabi and some other things like that. And I'm like, well, why would you use Kajabi? That's really expensive. You can market it, and as long as you're willing to do the marketing, which I think you'd probably have to do on Kajabi anyway. I could be wrong. But I said, you can totally do this on Google Classroom. And she's like, what? And so then because we were having this discussion, I showed her what I had created, and she was like, whoa, wow, that's really cool. And so I said, hey, would you want to be on my podcast? And she's like, oh, absolutely. So she is going to be on the podcast. We're going to record it on October 9th. I don't know if it will show up on October 9th or the 10th, but sometime in October. Her name is Tina McMillan. She's with Atypical Tutors, and she is a behavior consultant, and she works with students who have autism, ADHD, and who are dyslexic. And I'm like, well, that's pretty much the clientele I work with. I just don't say that that's my expertise. And, maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I just need to rebrand myself and, state that specifically, that those are the types of kids that I work with, because they are. Every single one of my kids has one of those diagnoses or multiple diagnoses. And so, you just learn how to work with those kids and you learn how to support them. And she's creating this whole course on autism, and she's going to come and talk to us about it. And so I'm really excited about that. But that took some effort. That didn't just happen. I mean, I know, there's a lot of people who will have like networking events where you're invited and they're going to have speakers and you're going to like training events, because I've hosted one. I've attended them. I think they're great. I'm just not in a season right now where I want to attend one at this point, because I'm still just trying to make those really specific connections. And that's why I really liked Alignable. But you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. Okay. So if you don't want to explore Alignable and you just want to go into LinkedIn, you can do searches for specific types of people with specific types of specialties, and then you can still send them a little conversation. Hey, I'd like to connect. Do you have some time? Would you be interested in a virtual meeting? I would just like to hear more about your business. And I didn't meet with Tina as a sales call to say, well, I want to be your coach. I could care less about that. I just want to learn more about her, because every single time I meet with a tutor, I learn something. I learn really cool things. If I had never met with Susan Grimes and chatted with her briefly about her business and the things that she does to get clients, I would never have taken the step to go to a local market and do some local marketing. And that's another thing. I'm getting ready to do a local market this weekend. So I did one back at the end of August. I'm doing one now at the beginning of October. I think I'm going to sign up for another one in November and just see how it goes. And again, I'm not necessarily there to make a sale. I am going to take some items that could be sold, and I'm prepared. I've got all my paperwork. So if I sell something, I can pay my local sales tax and all of those fun things. But I think my purpose is just getting out there and making those connections. I don't have a storefront. It doesn't say tutoring with Sheryl on the building. They don't have a place where they can park their car and come in and visit with me. So I have to be very intentional about getting out there. And I think at first I went from being a classroom teacher, and I was so out in the community all of the time. And sometimes it was intentional and sometimes it wasn't. But it was like, oh my gosh, okay, I have one more thing to do. Oh my goodness. And I was so burned out when I was done with my teaching 2 years ago. It was like, I don't care if I never go to another function again. I mean, that's how burned out I was. I was just like, I'm done. And I worked really hard on my blog, on my WordPress, and that I think did help with people who were researching, and people did contact me, but I have ignored that since June. And in January, it is going to be shut down. And I am just spending more time on my TutorBird website, and that is starting to rank higher. Because I knew if I kept adding information to my WordPress site and then I just went cold turkey, my TutorBird site would never gain traction. So now I'm just putting my contact information out there and I'm sharing it everywhere so that it's starting to show in the search results. And I think if I just keep doing that, but again, I think that in-person networking is so important. So whether it's a digital quote unquote in person via a virtual chat or actually showing up somewhere, I think it's really important. So what are some takeaways here? Let's kind of wrap this talk up. So if you haven't invested in some simple business cards, really consider that. It's not anything that's difficult to do. You can order them from anywhere. I just happen to have a paid Canvas account, and it's super easy because all my things are uploaded in there. And I happen to like my logo right now. And so I'm just like, yep, I'm just going to use that. And then again, the information was that I made a yard sign, and I'm going to purposely display that in a few yards locally and just get that out there. I'm going to call a few friends and say, hey, can I post this in your lawn for a week? I'd like to bring you whatever as a thank you, and then just do it and then go pick it up because, I think everybody's okay with a week. And one sign is plenty. It was $36. I mean, not a lot, but it was still $36. And as a single tutor, we don't have a lot of extra cash. I live on a county road. Not a lot of people are going to pass my sign, but there is an area that gets quite a bit of traffic, a corner that I think I might go post that sign after I put it in Fremont for a little bit. I'm probably just going to go post it someplace else. And hey, if it survives, great. And if it doesn't, well, then it did its purpose. Then I also talked to you about networking and how you need to just like reach out to somebody and have a conversation, and how just that joining Alignable and going to some of those networking events and continuing that education. As a matter of fact, I've got another one tomorrow, and it's on marketing, and I'm going to go, and I might hear the same thing I've heard from a million other people, but it's just one new idea. It's either a new idea or a new spin on it, or just validation that what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. That's why I keep going. So I'm going to go to that. And just that conversation that opened up, and now I've got a new person on my podcast, and I invited all the members of the Tech Hub to be on my podcast, and I got one of them that wanted to record this week, which I was like, ooh, I don't know if we can quite be ready this week because it takes a little bit of effort on their time. So I said, let's look into next week. Mornings didn't really work for her, so Natalie is also going to be on the podcast this month, and I'll tell you more about her after we get everything solidified. But she is a member of the Tech Hub for Tutors. And, that's the other thing. You can network just by being kind and sharing your knowledge with other people, whether you're out to make $1 or not. I just want to share my knowledge so that you can grow and you can feel successful and feel validated that the simple steps that you are taking will end up working. You just have to keep doing it. Don't give up. Even when it feels hard, don't give up. You are a small business owner, and all small business owners encounter this where they're like, oh, I'm going to all this work. I'm going to end with one more thing, and it's a story about my twin sister. Her name is Sheryl, and she is a real estate agent, and she worked so hard recently on selling a home in a local community. And the person that she was selling it for was just really had a lot of unrealistic expectations. And she kept having to kind of say, well, let's look at the market analysis. This is how much marketing I've done for you. And let's just keep looking at that. But she didn't give up, even though it was hard. And she just kept doing what she always does, adding value. And when you add value, people know, like, and trust you. Now, this guy might have known, liked, and trusted her. He was just a difficult client. But I am going to say, just don't give up, even when it gets hard, because if this is something that you really want to do, every day you're going to have to wake up and say, yep, today I'm going to do this. Make yourself a little checklist of things that you want to get done during the week, and then just simply click them off. Just check them off. Go, yep, that one's done. Yep, that one's done. Yep, that one's done. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm really excited to have Tina and Natalie on the Tutoring with Sheryl podcast. You're going to hear those conversations soon. You'll either listen to the audio on the Tutoring with Sheryl podcast on Spotify, or you'll get maybe the audio only because Natalie doesn't want to be on camera, which is completely fine, or you will see the video on YouTube. Okay, you guys make it a great day, and as usual, keep the learning going.